All right. Welcome back, my regular viewers, listeners, and watchers. And of course, if you happen to be here for the very first time, welcome. Before I go any further, my name is Rahul George, India's premier self hypnosis coach and your personal guide. So today's pod is inspired by, you might have guessed it if you've already seen the title. We are at that point at the time of this recording, at that point in the year where a lot of us tend to get a little nostalgic, we tend to get a little reminiscent, and of course some of us end up feeling pretty down, because obviously December is one of those months. One is, of course, from a seasonal perspective, depending on where you're living. If you live in a colder part of the country, uh, typically when the weather tends to shift, if you are prone to, or if you're generally feeling a little down, the weather can make you feel even more so. Having said all of that, of course, like I said, this is that time of the year where we kind of look back at the year, and maybe we lick our wounds, and we wonder, okay, where did the year go? The year had so much promise, and here I am at the end of this year, and we have these kind of questions. It's like, what do I have to show for it? So one thing I can tell you is that use this moment to actually pause. If it's possible, step away. If you can go away from where you live and maybe take a day off, maybe take a weekend off, and just reflect on what this year has been like, maybe what the first 3 months were like, what the first 6 months were like, and of course, what these last maybe 4 months have been for you. So if you do this, one is, of course, you will have a moment to reflect and actually start to take account, to take stock of what actually happened this year, right? What were your victories? Maybe in a financial context, did you hit any new milestones, right? Were you able to maybe have more sales, especially as a digital coach? Sales is, of course, one of the things that we all, in one way or the other, think about. Some of us obsess about it. Some of us don't want to think about it because it's probably that part of our business that frightens us, that makes us feel small, or embarrasses us. So, whatever the case may be, here's literally that opportunity to reflect back. And if you've been keeping track of your sales, maybe you've got a widget, maybe you're using Excel. Actually, one is, of course, create a visualization for it, meaning, um, you know, like do an Excel spreadsheet and see how it looks visually. So maybe you do a bar graph and you can see, okay, which months did you actually have, sales more than you had expected? Which months was there a drop? Because remember, at the end of the day, just like in nature, there will be bells and there'll be troughs, right? There'll be peaks and there'll be highs and there'll be lows. So sales is no different, right? Just like in the stock market, you will have rallies, meaning you'll have a good phase, and then you'll have a phase where it cools off or where it drops, and then it comes back up again. So, that is the nature of even business, and especially our own business. So, like I said, one is definitely, use this opportunity to reflect back on the year, and see your year as a bar chart, right? As a bar graph, and um, actually take time to reflect. Like, did you expect that you would have the kind of numbers that you did, let's say in the first 3 months, like Jan, Feb, March? Did you were you surprised at certain points? And when you do this, also it will give you an indicator of what you could do differently in the new year, because we are talking about today's pod, we're talking about preparing, getting ready for the year ahead. So that's one. The other, of course, is, when you think about your health, right? Is there anything that has surprised you, right? Maybe it could be in a negative way, meaning that maybe you got a health report, or maybe health scare. It really depends on what your year was like. But more importantly, use this as a time to reflect. Maybe you're thinking about fitness and wellness, right? What were some of the goals that you hit in the year? And where are you at this point, right? Are you on a down phase? Like maybe, maybe you've been cutting back on exercise. So maybe earlier in the year you were more focused. You were, doing, you were exercising more regularly, and maybe of late you've not. Right? I know for me, this is one of the areas that I myself am now, getting ready for a shift. The last, I think, 2 or 3 months, I've kind of taken it a little easy. So now is my time to, 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 to turn things around and to move things into more of a active, an active focus for me. So, and it's almost like, when you think about it in the 5 areas of life, right? There's health, wealth, relationships, spirituality, and our own life's purpose. So even in these 5 areas, when you do a review, notice what you've seen, right? What has changed for you? So, like I said, so far, as you're reflecting on the year, especially when you're looking for motivation, one is to reflect back on the year in the context of your money goals, your wealth goals, your sales goals, and notice what kind of shifts you have experienced. The second, of course, is in the context of your health and your wellness, right, and your fitness. um, you know is there something that you'd like to do differently in the new year? This is something to possibly start thinking about. Maybe in your home environment, right? Is there something, and especially if you work from home, would you want to make shifts? Would you want to change certain things about how you've been working this year? So these are some of the things to reflect on. The reason why I'm pointing out all of these is because, at the end of the day, motivation is something which is, as I'm sure you've heard about this, motivation is something which is um, a fleeting experience, or or it's like a muscle that wears off pretty quickly. By that I mean, if you're only looking for motivation to be able to do things, then you will have a lot of ups and downs, because motivation will come in waves, right? When you feel truly inspired, you will feel motivated, and therefore you will do things. When, on the other hand, you are lacking it for some reason, either known or unknown, then when you're operating only from motivation, that is when you'll have these periods of a lull. Now, having said all of that, what is the antidote? This is again something that I've noticed, uh, especially in the recent times. If I look back at this point, if I look back at a year, one big shift that has happened for me, and this has taken many years of many different trials, many different experiments, and now I'm at a point where I know that asking the question of, like, what can I do which can help other people, and what is it that I can do consistently. So in my case, it was creating content. So I have, I think, definitely close to about maybe 80 or 100 episodes on my podcast. You're probably listening to it there, or if you happen to be watching this on Facebook, you can always go and watch the other podcasts of different durations. So this is something that happened because I was consistent in creating content. Why was I doing that? Because I truly wanted to be able to share what I know with other digital coaches, because having been very fortunate to have been doing this now for literally two decades, I definitely know that there are certain things that are required in order to be able to stand the test of time, as they say, right? And I know there are a lot of coaches that maybe have been doing this for maybe like post-COVID, so it's been about 3 years, or maybe they've been doing it for maybe the last 5 to 7 years. Maybe there are people who've been trainers and who have now switched more into coaching. And so, regardless of where you are on your journey, it is really, really important. And for me, it was really, really important to be able to find a way to, to document, to record my observations, to share what I've learned along the way, whether it's in the context of, learning your craft, or of course, in the context of sales and marketing. So if I look at the last probably 7 years, 16, yeah, 7 years at this point, I've devoted a lot of that in learning sales and marketing. Am I better than when I started? For sure. Is there room for improvement? Well, the answer is always, right? But the fact that today, I've got a lot of the digital assets in place, whether it's a website, whether it's, payment gateways, whether it's, having a podcast. So basically digital assets which will stand the test of time. That is something which today I know happens on autopilot. So again, just a reminder here that, when you're looking for motivation, one is, of course, reviewing the past is one way to kind of learn and recognize that actually it wasn't all that bad, or you actually did have a lot of wins for you in the year. The second part, of course, is that when you start to look into the future, which is to say, okay, what do I have that I can share with other people that will truly help them? That is when, regardless of whether you're sort of quote unquote having a bad day or not, right? Good days we all know, but whether you're having a bad day, or if you're having a bad day, it won't matter beyond a point, because you know that you have committed to yourself to do this for other people, right? So for example, whether it is, doing my one-to-one coaching or group coaching programs, these are things that I do regardless of how my day is, right? And in many ways, these are things that I look forward to. There may be times in the moment where maybe I'm not in the best of moods, but I know that people who are showing up to work with me genuinely want this, and they have faith and trust in me to be able to help them. So that in itself becomes a driver, that becomes the fuel to show up. So again, like I said, the core of today's pod is all about motivation. And especially, you'll hear a lot more of this now as we move from December into Jan, which is all about, motivation, which is all about, your vision boards. It's all about creating um, new visions for the coming year. And I can promise you this: if you ask yourself this question, okay, what it's like, what is it that I really love to do, and what is it that I want to be able to do to help other people? This is what will give you a lot of that um, inner drive, right? Because there will be ups and downs. It could be something from within. It could be maybe, maybe there's a loss of a family member, or it could be a friend, right? But regardless, when you know that you've chosen to do something, because I truly believe that this work that we do as digital coaches is something that is very, very blessed work, meaning that this is not just about earning, um, earning money, or like hitting money goals. Of course, those are important. Those feel good when you hit a certain target. But more than that and beyond that, this is about being able to help and being able to give other people hope. This is what I truly believe. And so, people who are in my community, people who I interact with, at the core of what they do, this is something that we share in common. So something to really, really keep in mind, right? Like, one is where you're looking at the past, the other is where you're starting to plan for, why do you want to do this in the coming year in service of other people, in in the context of helping other people, right? If you're able to answer these questions, this will give you that motivation. And along the way, of course, say for example, if you know that you want to do a lot more work, sooner or later you'll know that eating right, exercising right, these are things that will help you balance yourself so that you are able to do more of it, right? So, it's one thing to say, okay, I want a six-pack ab, or I want to walk, 10,000 steps a day. Like, these are great, milestones on their own. But if you feel that, doing these challenges don't work for you, then pick something that is something that will truly move the needle, because you're doing it for other people. And in doing so, you'll sooner or later recognize that to be your best version, to be able to do that work consistently, your health, your fitness will come into play, your relationships will come into play, right? So, and this is where when we talk about congruence, we talk about, being aligned internally and externally. you will find yourself more and more making these shifts in your day, in your life, so that a year from now, when you reflect back and you remember that you had heard this, you had seen this video, you'll have something to reflect on. And it's not just 1 year. I'm talking about over the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, maybe even 7 years. When you start to reflect back, you'll notice that you've become a completely different, stronger version of you that is truly dedicated to your own cause, your own mission. So with that, I'm going to, of course, pause for today. I will be back with another daily pod. As you know, these are daily pods. So these are recorded every day. You can, of course, see them on and watch them on Facebook. You can watch them or listen to them even on YouTube. So definitely, go check them out. And, if you believe this is something that can help other people, please share this with them. And last but not the least, of course, remember to live with purpose. So I'll see you in the next one. God bless. Have a wonderful day ahead. And of course, a cracking new year as well, which is just around the corner. I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye bye.